Welcome, everyone. My name is Claire Killey, and I'm the Director of Programs at Disability Leads. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a white woman with brown and gray hair, wearing a navy top and sitting in front of a blurred background. Today's program includes ASL interpretation and CART or real-time captions. You can access captions directly in Zoom by clicking Show Captions at the bottom of your screen, or you can utilize the stream text link in the chat if you prefer to view captions in a separate browser. If you have any questions or require technical support, please send a direct chat message to DisLead Support. This program is being recorded and will be shared publicly after the event. Lastly, while the chat is set for messaging hosts and panelists only, we encourage you to utilize the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen throughout the program to show support and encouragement for today's storytellers. Feel free to practice that now if you'd like. We are so pleased to welcome you for one of our most beloved programs, Storytelling with Disability Lead members. We are fortunate to have three incredible and talented members featured today: Timotheus Gordon Jr., Jon Haven, and Liliana Schiller. All three of them are past fellows of the Disability Lead Institute, a year-long fellowship for aspiring leaders with disabilities who are ready to make change in their communities. Applications are open now for the 2027 Institute, and I look forward to sharing more about how you can apply later in the program. I want to sincerely thank Timotheus, Jon, and Liliana for their willingness to share their personal experiences with us. Finding the right words requires labor and vulnerability, but the results can be a catalyst for change. Please note that some of the content explored in the featured stories may be triggering for some, including strong language and topics of emotional abuse, self-harm, and therapy-induced trauma. We encourage you all to take care of yourselves in the ways that work for you. And now, let's begin storytelling. At this time, I'm pleased to welcome our first storyteller, Timotheus Gordon Jr., to join me on screen. Welcome, Timotheus. We look forward to hearing your story.
Thank you, Claire. Hi, everyone. My name is Timotheus Gordon Jr., also known as TJ Gordon. My pronouns are he, his, and for audio description, I describe myself as a king-size, handsome African-American male with a mini fro, wearing glasses, a navy t-shirt, jeans, and black shoes, and I am currently sitting in my office at the University of Illinois, Chicago, my workplace. Here is my story. Honor and loyalty are in my name. My grandfather named my father after Saint Timothy in the New Testament of the Bible. I guess he liked Greek and Latin names so much because he named my only paternal uncle Adolphus, or to me, Uncle Doll. My name, Timotheus, by the way, means honoring God in Greek and Latin. The first part of my name, Timo, Timo, means to honor, to revere. You see, my name is more than a word that identifies me among billions of people on this earth. It is a one-word encapsulation of my values, of what I contribute to society, and of how I influence people, places, and power to be around me. When you hear the name Timotheus Gordon Jr., think of an award-winning researcher, an advocate who helped found a self-advocacy group for disabled people of color. You should also think of someone who fights for equitable parenting and independent living in neurodiverse communities. You should think of someone who is true to himself, has two master's degrees, and is still so easygoing he could talk to anyone, anywhere. Above all, when you hear my name, you should think of someone who honors his commitment to freedom, equity, and providing opportunities to the disenfranchised. But even in my circles, they still overlook my name. Are my circles brave, safe spaces anymore if I don't have a place to lay my head? A place I truly call home. Because I would rather follow the path my name means and face more opposition than be what people around me want me to be, thus gaining more access to comfort through conformity. You see, now I understand what they meant in the Crucible when they said, "You're ruining in my name. You're ruining in my name." Well, my own village thinks of Timotheus. That was still a grown man who has achieved a lot in more than 39 years than they expected. They don't see the Timotheus who has his own voice and ways to navigate rivers. My name does not matter to them at all. To them, just like during my childhood, I am only a black autistic body, a body that can be filled with the direction and thoughts of others. I am just a puppet, expected to carry out whatever the village wants me to do. What I have contributed to this time on Earth doesn't matter to my village, or even when others respect the work I am putting in and the effort I'm making to achieve. I am a show pony. Look at how Timotheus overcame autism to get a full-time job, live in a subsidized unit, and earn 2 degrees. Look at how articulate and inspirational he is. But if I'm not the show pony, then I am a slow, beating up outcast to you. Poor Timotheus. He doesn't know how to parent or live as we do. He can never be like us because he doesn't understand our jokes, our purpose for him. He's lost. He misunderstands us. He thinks he knows everything. He thinks he's better than us. He doesn't want to be one of us. They miss the honor of my name and dismiss me as Mr. Advocate instead. My legacy, my name, is not a fill in the blank where you could just insert your expectations of me and command me to carry them out. It will not be dis be diminished just because my village downplays what I've done. I am the expert and the voice of my adventure. So just so I am just as qualified to have a say in how my name should be displayed and spoken. I navigate my rivers. You do not. Yes, I don't move through the world as a neurotypical. My achievements and aspirations may not align with mainstream expectations. So what? My achievements and aspirations are just that. Mine. They are what make Timotheus concrete examples of what I bring to the world. For example, fatherhood in my village means playing with the children, paying child support, and doing whatever the co-parent tells you to do. My version of fatherhood, as I pledge to all around me, is to support their growth and development, support their dreams, and guide them to become great in any way they want. Despite the fears, the jeers, and the roadblocks. That's what I have been fighting for with my goddaughter, Lauren Wolf, and my son, Theoe, like in Bluey, by the way, being an active father figure. Let's consider their name for me, Mr. Advocate. It is a joke that my village will use to describe how I'm too good for the village now, though I don't know if I even was a good fit to begin with. But that's another story. That's another story. In all, the moniker is used to describe me as irrelevant and supporting outcasts of society who don't belong. Consider that part of my name. Considering that part of my name means honor, Mr. Advocate should be a name that describes my ultimate job to uplift and champion neurodivergent, disabled, deaf, and marginalized folks. This Mr. Advocate fights for the so-called outliers and misfits to live free, equitably, and productively with support. Just like I have been pursuing a freer life as a autistic self-advocate, where I can live out my dreams instead of feeling regulated to low expectations coming from my village. People see only a limited view of what I, Timotheus, can offer. They can exploit, then they exploit what I offer for their benefit. Excuse me. For example, some expect me to have all the answers on how to ensure their loved ones succeed in college. Yeah, blame me when I cannot give them the answer they want. Sadly, I am only an expert of my own undergraduate experience at the University of Minnesota from 2006 to 2010. Why is it that if I don't have all the answers, you dismiss me? Some people offer me opportunities to speak about my autistic experience to a room of family members, educators, and caregivers. But don't take advantage of me, expecting me to work for free. Why do you think disabled labor should come cheap? Why do you think disabled labor have no value? Timotheus honors dignity and pay. I am neither your cash cow nor your oracle at Delphi. There is no honor in exploitation at all. No honor in it. But Mr. Advocate, he's the punching bag for people who don't want me to be me. Maybe I wronged them in the past. Maybe they want what I have. Maybe they want to get to know me better, but don't know how to do so gently and with respect. Or maybe they are projecting their guilt onto me, expecting me to take it. Whatever the case may be, Timotheus does not mean to slander people in Greek or Latin. I don't just see the flaws in others, so I expect you not to see just the flaws in me. No need to explain further how I do not belong. You're preaching to the choir. I am an alien in a familiar earth, but I am more than just imperfections. Learn the whole story of me, all sides of me. Learn the truth of my name. When you hear the name Timotheus, don't think of me as a punchline, failure, or just a publicity stunt. Think of me as a person committed to his craft, his vision, and his mission to serve, to educate, to create, and to uplift through advocacy, adventure, academia, and the arts. Thank you.
This is Claire speaking. TJ, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Let's take a moment to celebrate TJ. There is Timotheus, Timotheus, Timotheus. There's a lot of support coming in for you here. Thank you for sharing your story. Feel free to exit the screen when you are ready.
Timotheus out.
And at this time, I would like to invite our next storyteller, Jon Haven, to join us on screen. Welcome, Jon. We look forward to hearing your story.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Jon Haven. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm a 31-year-old white man with long brunette hair, blue eyes, a mustache, glasses, and I'm wearing a blue shirt. This is my story. I'm an autistic who spent about a decade working in applied behavior analysis therapy. Yeah, those folks who are known for working to make autistic people less autistic. Trigger warning for those who have poor experiences in ABA. Technically, I'm ADHD, ADHD and autistic. I was told I have ADHD when I was 7. I was in first or second grade. At that age, I loved field trips, had thoughts buzzing like bees in my head, dreaded sitting at desks for long periods of time, endured long school days, prepping me to be a working cog in the capitalist machine, and played with the other weirdos. I was bright in school, and at times impulsive. For example, in third grade, I stole a digital watch from a rich kid's backpack that had funny animations on it. I recall it clearly because the impulse felt out of my control, and my stealth was very poor. The kid walked by and saw me stealing his prized watch. I don't recall the punishment as much as I recall the shame. Another time that year, I stood in line waiting for the teacher to clarify something on our homework. The student in front of me was taking a long time to understand a basic concept, so I blurted, "Sometime this year?" My teacher was taken aback, reprimanded me, and thanked the other students for their patience. I've always hated unfairness. You probably remember taking math speed quizzes that were timed. When the time was up, you would swap with another student and grade their quiz. More than once, a student continued to work on the math speed tests for about 5 or 10 seconds after time was up. I would mark them off for the ones they did after the time was up. Why should they get extra time when I don't? The student would then complain that I was marking them down for no reason. and the teacher would ask me to explain. I would explain. And they usually told me something along the lines of, don't police your peers. For other neurodivergent folks, you know what I mean. The rules are bullshit, except when they are not. And they are usually enforced on us. Don't get into a fight with another student harassing you. Come to the teacher. Then the teacher reprimands you to stop tattling on your peers. You're a snitch. Whatever your opinions on snitching are, snitching is what they told us to do. Adults would end conflict saying, life is not fair. Like they were teaching me a lesson when they were just trying to justify their bullshit. While I had ADHD, I did not talk about it much. Did not have it explained to me, and I labored daily to hide that part of myself. I masked a lot in school, hiding things that made me different from my neurotypical peers. My eccentric and improvisational storytelling was ridiculed. My stimming made me gay, and students found ways to push my buttons because when I was angry, it was funny. I worked hard to be less neurodivergent-like than some others who were also like me. Being different puts you lower in the social hierarchy. For most of my childhood, after school days ended, I was exhausted from masking, and emotional regulation became very difficult. I would fight with my parents very often. My parents labeled me as angry all the time. They even sent me to talk therapy in middle school to help me manage my anger. However, they did not put in effort to address their emotions, anger, and emotional abuse. Don't get me wrong. In many ways, my parents overextended themselves for me and my brothers. At the same time, they did not and still have not gone to therapy. In elementary school, medication helped me quite a bit, and occupational therapy helped a lot. That therapy was a space where someone actually got it. I felt accepted in OT. I was able to swing, learn how to soothe my senses, take off my mask, and have assistance initiating tasks. My time in OT is a major reason I decided to work in ABA when I graduated college. Before I was connected with the disability community at large, I hesitated to even identify as disabled. In fact, I don't remember when I first learned about neurodivergence, but it was later than you'd expect. After college, I was told by a friend who worked in the field that applied behavior analysis therapy could greatly impact the lives of kids who needed treatment to thrive. Today, healthcare practitioners still consider it the standard for treating autism. So, I was quickly hired into a starving wages job as a therapist at an ABA clinic. I was provided about 25 hours of video, scenario-based, and hands-on behavior management training, and needed to pass a performance test as a therapist running an ABA session. The system I trained in provided much more training than many clinics and ABA centers do provide, or are even required to provide. While I completed a decent amount of training, hardly any of it focused on autism itself, and it was not nearly enough to be trauma-informed in our approach. ABA is a little different from other therapies. There is a supervising board-certified behavior analyst who has a master's degree in education, applied behavior analysis, or psychology, who oversees all the treatment. They write the behavior intervention plans, meet with the family, and train the therapists or technicians. Therapists and technicians are the ones doing the direct treatment, which for some kids was up to 40 hours a week. This treatment is strongly tied to changing the environment around the client to get them to engage in certain behaviors more and other behaviors less. This runs into issues when people are not educated about autism. I gave my job my all. I even became the lead therapist after a year at the clinic. I lasted longer than most. And yes, I still got paid shit wages as a lead therapist. I was given a caseload with kids who had higher support needs, helping them work through self-injurious behavior or physical aggression. I had kids bite me, kick me, punch me. Because the supervisor was not educated in autism, they would have us prevent the kids from stimming until they reached the point of tears. I was told the stimming would hurt them. I was told it would ostracize them. We forced kids to stop lining up toys in a line because that is not functional play. Shortly after becoming the lead therapist, I entered graduate school to become a board-certified behavior analyst. While I was initially set on becoming a mental health counselor, my supervisor at the time convinced me that being a BCBA would, one, come with employer-sponsored tuition reimbursement, and two, essentially consisted of being a counselor to parents for their kids. I was worn out from direct treatment. I needed the income that came from a supervisory role, and while I had my reservations, it seemed like the right path forward. But let me be clear, I don't regret this path. As I traversed through graduate school, I became a pariah among some I worked with because I was seen as giving too much leeway for the kids I served. I see a lot of positive things in ABA, but what exists as ABA today is incompatible with what ABA ought to be. During my time in graduate school, I began to notice cracks in the system, but persisted because I vowed to never engage in the practices that I was told to do as an entry-level therapist. So in 2020, 2.5 years after I entered the field, I passed the board-certified behavior analyst exam and was assigned a caseload with adults who have intellectual disabilities. This test may have been the most challenging exam I have ever taken. At that time, we were in the heat of the pandemic. There was a lot of systemic upheaval. There were growing discussions about neurodivergent affirming ABA practices. At that time, I was deepening my ties to the disability community at large. When I was in this supervisory position, the work began grinding me down even more. Rather than modifying environments to accommodate those I treated, staff wanted the adults to act a certain way. They would not listen to me. They would not follow protocols. And they regularly violated the rights of those I served. As far as management above me, my disability accommodations were not respected by my supervisor because they were seen as a temporary hindrance to my independence. My supervisor aimed to phase out my accommodations like I was a client of theirs. Up until this point, I saw cracks and issues that needed reform. When it hit me personally, I found the entire system to be irreparable. You see, ABA is owned by wealthy, capitalist, neurotypical assholes who want to make disabled folks cogs in their machines. I was taught it was a means to help disabled people flourish and give them the tools to communicate their needs, but that rarely happens. So a few years later in 2023, I quit that full-time role because it burned me out and led me into a severe depression. After a short break, I attempted to find employment outside of the field, but there were no opportunities. So I made my way into part-time ABA with kids. And that was in some ways worse. For 3 years, I bounced between clinics trying to find a place where I could exercise my ability to help these kids. But every clinic that employed me only cared about money. Every place was incredibly disorganized with no accountability. The therapists were poorly trained, the schedules were impossible, and the health insurance companies called all the shots. I attempted to make change, but when you're alone in an endeavor, it is too much to bear. In March of this year, I finally freed myself from ABA and now proudly work in the city colleges of Chicago as a disability specialist in the TRIO office at Harold Washington College. In my role now, I don't have to change anyone or feel like I have to change myself. We adapt and we accommodate. Thank you.
This is Claire speaking again. Jon, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. A lot of support coming in for you. Want to pause and give a moment to celebrate Jon.
Thank you, everyone. It was an honor.
Thank you, Jon. We appreciate you. Feel free to exit the screen when you're ready. And at this time, I'd like to invite our final storyteller, Liliana Schiller, to join us on screen. Welcome, Liliana. We look forward to hearing your story.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Liliana Schiller. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a white woman with long brown hair, glasses, a black t-shirt, and a pink cardigan. This is my story. Her eyes looked me up and down, registering disbelief. I'd seen that look before, and I knew what was coming. I don't believe you. My son's autistic, and you're nothing like him. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. I think to myself, my internal tone of voice sharp and annoyed. But I pause, breathe, and respond. Yup, I was diagnosed at 25. I plaster a smile across my face because that's what I'm supposed to do, right? Women smile to relieve tension. I learned that from watching others. If I don't smile, she'll think I'm rude, and I know that being rude is, well, rude. She responds, I would have never known you're autistic. You hide it so well. The upward curve of my lips and the crow's feet next to my eyes stay in place, but my body tells me I'm angry. Like so many autistic people, I often miss my body's cues, but anger? I know her well. She starts at the tips of my toes and slowly creeps upward. My ankles start to tingle, and as she climbs up my legs, her pace quickens. Knowing she's near, my heart beats faster. My temperature rises and my palms get sweaty. My thinking mind finally notices her presence, but it's too late. Anger embraces my entire body, like a mother embracing their child. I relax into her arms and allow myself to feel. Beneath the surface, I'm boiling, but my smile remains. Research shows that women mask more frequently and more effectively than men. Masking is a highly sophisticated, internalized coping mechanism that's an intense and often unconscious effort to suppress autistic traits. Women are often undiagnosed because they imitate neurotypical social behaviors better than men. I want to stress that people of all gender identities mask, and while I do not agree with the gender binary, most studies focus on the disparities between men and women. There are many, many reasons why women or women-identifying folks mask more than men. For starters, in the patriarchy, women are socialized to prioritize conformity and empathy. We're expected to be agreeable and socially adept, laugh at that joke, suppress our frustration, and remain polite so as not to provoke. We want to feel connected and have a sense of belonging, and we often mask to fit in. And compared to autistic men, autistic women internalize their distress instead of externalizing it. Rather than meltdowns, our distress manifests as anxiety, depression, and self-harm. But I can assure you, I've still had my fair share of meltdowns. They often arise when my nervous system is overloaded, and overload is the result of constant, inescapable overstimulation. I know when I'm reaching overload because my body interprets small things like a person coughing on the bus as a full assault on my senses. That person flipping through their 2-second clips of TikToks without headphones, they're oblivious, but my body is hyper aware. That child at the grocery store who's maybe just a little too close to me at checkout, they don't mean any harm, but my body feels threatened. I interpret these small moments as weights being added to my life vest. At first, swimming becomes just a bit more difficult, but as the weights compound, I can no longer stay above water. I can't do anything but sink. I sank a lot as a toddler when simple things like seams in my socks would trigger a meltdown. The only way I would calm down was if my mom held me as tight as she could. As I got older, my meltdowns became angrier. One time, I took my drumsticks and I beat the corner of a wall in my house. When we moved, the marks were still there. Over time, I started to sense that external anger wasn't appropriate. I learned to be more docile and to hide my anger. That's when I began to internalize my meltdowns. As a teen, I'd go into my room and hit myself as hard as I could in the head. I'd walk in circles, tears quietly streaming down my face, and just hurt. Because I was unable to express myself the way my body craved, I started exhibiting quieter forms of distress. My preferred method, finger picking. In 8th grade, I remember going to the nurse's office for Band-Aids so often that she eventually gave me a box to keep in my desk. In high school, I kept a bag of Band-Aids in my backpack, and I still have that same Ziploc bag. In college, one of my professors noticed this behavior and asked me to stay after class. "You pick your fingers a lot," she said. "Do you ever feel anxious?" "Well, I don't know, I guess sometimes," I replied. She referred me to my school's counseling center, and at 19, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder. Neither diagnosis felt right, but I guess it was something. At 21, I taught at a school for students with severe and profound disabilities. Only then did I learn about autism. I'd heard of it before, of course, but I didn't know anything about it. As I got to know my students, I began to see myself. Wait a minute, I flap my hands like that. Well, hold on, my body's craving movement. Can I get up from my desk and walk around too? I remember one day when a classroom teacher brought out a trampoline during my music class. As a kid, I used to repeatedly jump up and down when I was excited, and I would have loved a trampoline. The way this student jumped to their heart's desire still warms my soul. The pieces started coming together, but I kept this information to myself. A few years later, I casually mentioned it to my mom and sister, but nothing really came from it. In 2021, my sister sent me a multi-part TikTok about a girl's autism journey, and boy, howdy, it was as if I filmed the videos myself. I began thinking seriously about being autistic. I didn't know where to start, so I asked my primary care physician if she knew of an adult autism test. She referred me to Lurie Children's Hospital, which was unhelpful because I was not a child, so I took it upon myself and found a center. The testing process was absolutely absurd. It was designed for children. When I asked about this, the psychologist told me that there were no other options. I don't know if that's true, but I couldn't wait any longer and proceeded with the test. The entire process took about a month, and in August 2021, I was finally diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. I expected to feel relief, but instead, I felt immense grief. Why didn't anyone notice this sooner? And why did I have to suffer? I'm not angry at anyone in particular. In fact, I know my mom tried when I was a baby. She spoke to doctors about my meltdowns, but there was little to no research on autistic girls at the time. And I think that this speaks more to our society than it does to my family. To most people, I'm not autistic. To some, I'm not autistic enough. And to others, I am way too autistic. I've owned my autistic identity for 5 years now, but I'm basically relearning how to be. I catch myself masking all the time. Most recently, I attended a work event and was chatting with someone I had just met. I was smiling and nodding, and then furrowing my brows and nodding, and then smiling and nodding again. It felt so forced and unnatural. It's like that scene from Men in Black where that teeny tiny alien controls the human's body. Sometimes when I mask, I feel like that alien pulling the human levers for myself. It's so hard to break from these social scripts so that I can appear normal. I constantly ask myself, why do I mask so much? And why is it so hard to stop? I allow myself to be authentically autistic in so many other ways, but breaking the veneer of my perfectly curated mask feels impossible. When I'm constantly performing for others, I enter a period of debilitating autistic burnout, which is a severe form of exhaustion marked by a loss of skills, intense fatigue, and a significant increase in sensory sensitivity. I once heard that burnout often happens when the energy required to mask finally collapses. For decades, I felt like that alien in a human suit. I watched the humans behave and adopted their mannerisms to not be found out. But I like my unmasked self. I'm smart, thoughtful, funny, strange, dorky, weird. I like my brain. I like being autistic. And even though it's hard, I like unmasking and showing everyone who I really am. It'll take a very long time to unlearn 30 years of socialized behaviors, but I'm motivated to help others live the way they want to, not the way society expects them to. Living by others' expectations is exhausting. And in a world that was not made for disabled people, we must show up as our real selves. That's the best thing we can do, and I hope we can do it together. Thank you.
This is Claire speaking. Thank you so much, Liliana. Thanks for sharing your story with us. Pause a moment for all the support coming in. And at this time, I'm going to invite Jon and Timotheus to join us on screen again. Give me one moment to make sure everyone is visible. And let's spend some time celebrating all three of our storytellers. Thank you so much. Such powerful stories. We really appreciate you, Timotheus, Jon, and Liliana. Let's send some gratitude their way. I know that all of you worked really hard in preparing, and we're so proud to have you as members of the Disability Lead Network. So thank you for your openness and authenticity. And I hope each of you know that someone in this audience has been changed by your story. Thank you all so much. I invite you to stay with me on screen for final remarks and continue to see all the support that's coming your way. I'd also like to extend an additional thank you to Disability Lead members Teki Lomnicki and Megan Doherty for their coaching, support, and expertise in helping our storytellers prepare what they shared today. And thank you to our access providers, Joe Gale providing CART and AI Media providing American Sign Language. Today's gathering is about holding people you don't know in your hearts and making room for their voices and their needs. This is the only way we will achieve the equitable and inclusive communities each of us yearns for. And on the note of community building, I'm pleased to share that applications are open for the 2027 Institute Disability Leads Year-Long Fellowship for Aspiring Leaders. If you are a person with a disability who lives or works in the Chicago or Southwestern Pennsylvania regions, and you have at least 5 years of leadership experience, you are eligible to apply. The Institute is a one-of-a-kind experience for emerging or established leaders with disabilities to engage in deep reflection, learning, and skill building with a close-knit community of peers. After completing the program, all fellows become lifetime members of the Disability Lead Network, just like our 3 storytellers today. In the chat, you'll find the link where you can learn more and apply. And there's still time left to meet our early bird deadline of July 1st. Applicants who submit a full application by July 1st will be guaranteed an interview. And if you don't make that deadline, there's still plenty of time to apply, as applications will be open until the beginning of September. And if the Institute isn't right for you, but you can think of others who would benefit, please help us spread the word or offer to serve as a nominator for a potential candidate. You can contact us at application@disabilitylead.org with any questions. We hope to see you apply, and thank you for spreading the word. Finally, help us continue to provide high-quality programming by offering your input on today's program using the feedback form linked in the chat. And we hope you'll stay connected with us at disabilitylead.org and stay tuned for future upcoming programs. Thank you again to our fabulous storytellers and our members, and thank you for joining us. We hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.